She saw his face, and that was her death sentence. At least, that's what he believed. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about a woman who looked out her window at 2:17 in the morning and accidentally became the only person alive who could identify one of Chicago's most calculated killers. But here's what nobody talks about when they tell this story. She called the police immediately. They didn't believe her, not at first. And in the 3 weeks between that phone call and the moment Detective Webb finally knocked on her door, Raymond Cole had already been to her building twice. He knew her name. He knew her schedule. He knew which window was hers. And he had already decided what he was going to do about it. Stay with me, because the part that will keep you up tonight isn't the killer. It's what Anna Reeves found hidden inside her own apartment on the morning Detective Webb came to take her statement. Something Cole had left there. Something that told her he had already been inside. Anna Reeves had moved to Chicago in the spring of 2015. She was 34 years old. A medical transcriptionist, she worked from home, kept odd hours, and had chosen her apartment on the 4th floor of a building on North Damen Avenue, specifically because of the view. She liked watching the city at night, the lights, the movement, the feeling of being surrounded by 4 million people while remaining completely alone. On the night of November 14th, 2017, she was at her window at 2:17 a.m. because she couldn't sleep. She saw a man in the alley below. He was tall, dark coat, moving quickly but not running, the careful pace of someone who knew exactly what they were doing and had done it many times before. He was carrying something wrapped in dark plastic. Anna didn't know what it was, not yet. But when he reached the dumpster at the far end of the alley, he stopped. And he looked up, directly at her window, directly at her face. For 3 seconds, they looked at each other. Then he walked away. Anna stood at the window for a long time after he was gone. She told herself it was nothing. Told herself the city was full of people moving things at night. She went back to bed. She didn't sleep again until morning. 2 days later, police found a body in that dumpster. Marcus Webb had been with the Chicago PD Homicide Division for 23 years. He was 49 years old, broad shoulders going soft, reading glasses he refused to wear in front of other detectives, the kind of man who remembered every case he had ever worked and slept badly because of it. The North Damen case was the fourth in what Webb had privately been calling a series for 2 months, though his captain had asked him not to use that word publicly. 4 victims, 4 different locations within a 3-mile radius, all found in dumpsters or back alleys, all with the same careful, methodical cause of death, all with zero physical evidence left at the scene. Whoever was doing this was not making mistakes. They were not going to make mistakes. Webb had worked enough cases to know the difference between someone who got lucky and someone who was good. This person was very good. Then Anna Reeves called the tip line on a Wednesday morning. Webb drove to her apartment himself. He sat across from her at her kitchen table and listened to her describe what she had seen. Then he asked her one question. "Did he see you clearly?" Anna said yes. Webb said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "I need you to understand something. What you just told me is the most important information we have in this case. It is also the most dangerous thing you could have told me." Anna asked why. Because Webb said quietly, "He doesn't leave witnesses." He paused. "And you are the first one." Webb built Raymond Cole's profile over the next 72 hours from the ground up. It started with the description Anna had given: tall, dark coat, precise movement, calm under pressure, cross-referenced with the victim profiles. All 4 worked late hours, all 4 lived alone, all 4 had routines that took them through the same 3-mile radius at predictable times. This wasn't random. Someone had been watching, planning, selecting. Webb requested surveillance footage from every camera within 4 blocks of each crime scene going back 6 months. He watched 340 hours of footage, over 4 days with 2 junior detectives. On hour 287, they found him. Same man, same coat, different locations, different nights, always at the edge of the frame, always partially obscured, always positioned as if he knew exactly where every camera was. But in one piece of footage, a reflection in a shop window caught his face at an angle the camera itself had missed. Webb froze the frame. He ran the image through facial recognition. The result came back in 6 hours. Raymond Cole, 42 years old, no criminal record. A forensic accountant working for a private firm in the Loop. a man who spent his entire career finding things other people had tried to hide. Webb read Cole's file twice. Then he called Anna Reeves. She didn't answer. He called again. On the third call, someone picked up. It wasn't Anna. The voice on the other end of the line was calm, measured, slightly amused. "Detective Webb," the voice said. Webb said nothing. "I think we both know how this conversation ends," the voice continued. "The question is how long it takes to get there." Webb kept him talking. Standard protocol. Trace the call. Get a location. "Where is she?" Webb said. "Somewhere safe, for now," Cole said. "Which is more than I can say for the situation you've put her in by involving her in this." Webb said, "You did that when you looked up." A pause. "That," Cole said, "was a miscalculation. One of very few. I'm going to need you to be somewhere specific in the next 40 minutes, Cole continued. "Alone. No backup. If I see anyone else." The conversation ends differently for Ms. Reeves. Webb wrote down the address Cole gave him. Then Cole said one more thing before he hung up. "I've read your file, Detective. 23 years. Remarkable clearance rate. You've never lost a witness." He paused. "I'm curious whether that record matters more to you than following protocol." The line went dead. Webb sat in his car for 45 seconds. Then he started the engine. The address was a parking garage on West Kinsey Street. Level 4. Empty at 1 a.m. on a Wednesday night. Webb went alone. He told one person where he was going, his partner, Detective Chen, and told her to wait 30 minutes before sending anyone. Cole was already there when Webb arrived. He was leaning against a concrete pillar with his hands visible and no weapon in sight. He looked exactly like his photograph. Calm, neat, unremarkable. The kind of face you would forget 5 minutes after seeing it. Anna Reeves was sitting against the far wall, unhurt, scared, watching Webb with the expression of someone who had been waiting a very long time for a door to open. Cole spoke first. "I want to make a proposal," he said. Webb said nothing. "I will tell you where the other 3 are," Cole said. "The ones you haven't found yet. And I will walk out of this garage." Webb said, "There are no other 3. Cole smiled. "Detective," he said quietly, "you've been working this case for 4 months. You found 4. I've been working considerably longer than that." Webb felt something cold move through him. "How many?" he said. Cole considered the question as if it were a genuine inquiry. "Enough," he said, "that the families deserve to know." Webb looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Tell me where they are first." Cole shook his head slowly. "I think you know that's not how this works." They stood in the empty parking garage and looked at each other. 40 floors below, the city moved on without knowing what was being decided in the silence between 2 men on a Wednesday night in November. Webb made his decision in the space of 10 seconds. He had been a detective for 23 years. He had followed protocol for 23 years. He had also watched 11 families bury people because evidence was gathered too slowly, because procedures took too long, because the right thing and the necessary thing were not always the same thing. He looked at Anna Reeves. She was watching him with absolute stillness, the stillness of someone who understood that what happened next was entirely outside their control. Webb looked back at Cole. "Tell me where they are," he said. "All of them. Every location. Every name you know. Right now, in this garage." "And then what?" Cole said. Webb said nothing for a moment. Then I call it in. All of it. The locations. This conversation. This garage." Cole raised an eyebrow. "That's not what I proposed." "I know," Webb said. "But it's what's happening." Cole was silent for a long time. Then he did something Webb had not expected. He sat down on the concrete floor, slowly, deliberately, like a man who had just decided to stop running after a very long time. And he started talking. He talked for 40 minutes. Detective Chen arrived with 6 officers at the 30-minute mark. Webb held up one hand without turning around. They waited outside the entrance. Cole finished talking at 2:07 a.m. He had given Webb 11 locations and 14 names. Then he put his hands behind his back and waited. Webb arrested him without saying anything else. There was nothing left to say. The locations Cole had provided were confirmed over the following week. All 11 were accurate. 14 victims in total, spread across 4 years and 3 Chicago neighborhoods. 14 people whose families had been waiting for answers that the city had been unable to give them. Anna Reeves was placed in protective custody for the duration of the investigation. She testified at Raymond Cole's trial in October 2018. She described what she had seen from her window on the night of November 14, 2017. She described the 3 seconds of eye contact in the alley below. She said it quietly and without hesitation and looked directly at Cole the entire time she spoke. Cole watched her testify with the same calm expression he had worn in the parking garage. He didn't look away. He didn't look guilty. He looked, several observers noted, like a man attending a lecture on a subject he already knew well. Raymond Cole was convicted on 14 counts of first-degree murder in November 2018. Exactly 1 year after Anna Reeves had looked out her window at the wrong moment. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. He never explained why he had cooperated. He never explained why he had called Webb instead of simply disappearing. His attorney later suggested that Cole had wanted to be caught, that after 4 years of not being found, he had grown tired of not being seen. Webb never commented on that theory publicly. Privately, he thought it was probably true. Anna Reeves moved out of her apartment on North Damen Avenue in January 2019. She had lived there for 4 years. She had loved the view. She told the friend who helped her move that she couldn't stand to look at that window anymore. Not because of fear. The fear had faded. It was something else. She said every time she looked at it, she thought about the 3 seconds in the alley, about how different everything would be if she had simply stepped back from the glass. If she had not been seen, 14 families would still be waiting. Raymond Cole would still be out there. Webb would still be watching 340 hours of surveillance footage, looking for a face at the edge of a frame. She didn't say this as if it were something to be proud of. She said it the way people talk about things that happened to them rather than things they chose. But she did choose, her friend said. She called the tip line. She talked to Webb. She testified. Anna thought about this for a moment. Then she said, "I looked out the window. Everything else just followed." She took one last look at the apartment before she left. Then she closed the door and didn't look back. Detective Marcus Webb retired from the Chicago PD in March 2021. 26 years on the force. A clearance rate that remained, until the end, the highest in his division. At his retirement dinner, his partner, Detective Chen, gave a speech. She talked about his record, his cases, his methods. She mentioned the Cole case briefly, the parking garage, the 40-minute conversation, the decision to hold the door for 30 minutes while Cole finished talking. She said it was the only time in 26 years she had seen Webb break protocol. She said it was also the only time she had fully understood why he was the best detective she had ever worked with. Webb didn't speak at his own dinner. He sat at the end of the table and listened, and thought about 14 families who now had answers. He thought about Anna Reeves at her window at 2:17 a.m. on a night she couldn't sleep. He thought about Raymond Cole sitting on a concrete floor and deciding to stop. He thought about the 3 seconds in an alley that had started all of it. In the end, most cases came down to a moment that small. A look. A decision. A window left uncovered at the wrong time of night. Webb picked up his glass. He didn't make a toast. He just sat quietly in a room full of people who didn't know half of what he carried, and thought about how strange it was that justice, when it finally came, almost always arrived through the smallest possible door.